watch as I restore this old wooden deck for a client on a budget. First step was to remove the boards that were in the worst condition. This deck had seen a lot of deferred maintenance, and with wet Northern California winters the past few years, there were a lot of boards that had just flat out rotted out and were unsafe to walk on. So first thing, we had to get rid of those. Now underneath this deck is a patio room with a plexiglass ceiling, and while the boards were off, the client asked if I could wash the top of the ceiling through the opening in the deck. So while that meant laying on my face with a shop vac and a mop, it was well worth it because it made the patio room brighter and cleaner from underneath. Once everything was cleaned up, it was time to replace the wood. I put a layer of paint on the exposed beams just to give a little extra water protection, and I painted the ends of the boards. I used Douglas fir for this. Normally you'd want cedar or redwood for a deck, but since we're painting it and we're on a budget, Douglas fir will do just fine. Now with the worst of the wood replaced, it was time to turn attention to the existing boards. There was a lot of peeling paint, so I used a rake to scrape the worst of it off, and then got on my hands and knees with a scraper to scrape any final loose paint off those boards. While I was down there, I also hammered down any nail heads that were sticking up and tightened any loose deck screws.
Don't understand that job in suspense, slipping right through my hands. When we stop, wondering what they thought. I showed you mine, now show me yours. Are you down to get spiritual?
Then we gave everything a once over with an orbital sander in the worst places, just to get the textures consistent and make sure any last bits of loose paint were taken care of.
Things I just don't expect them to pick up the check. You say you want.
After one final cleaning, it was time to get painting. I used Bear Deck Over. It's a textured paint specifically for old decks. It goes on thick and it dries fast, and the texture in the paint will help cover some of the differences between the old boards and the smooth new boards.
Now you're out on your own, don't know where you.
In just a few days, we've added 5 to 10 more years of life to this deck and given my clients' tenants a beautiful place to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine overlooking the gorgeous San Francisco Bay.
Don't sit around and complain about it.